Raisin Brand is a podcast made for video professionals, marketing managers, top-notch designers, and ambitious minds, helping your business grow one topic at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Raisin Brand podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm a brand strategist at Pixel Labs. I'm super excited about the topic that we have today. First off, I got to introduce our special guest. I'm really excited. This man and I go back a little bit, so it's awesome to have him back here. Ryan Dozer is an entrepreneur and expert in SEO, SEM, AI, and digital marketing. And the topic we'll be exploring today is in the world of SEO and SEM, what it means to be a business in the world of SEO and SEM, what it is, how we can utilize it, and then some more advanced stuff from Ryan. But hey, man, it's good to see you.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. This has been a long time coming. We've been going back and forth and had issues come up here and there, but I'm glad to finally get in the studio here at Pixel Labs.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, and Ryan traveled to be here. We got to give this man credit. He did.
2 hours,
super
man.
Appreciate
Nothing
that.
crazy, but it's worth my time. So
No, I appreciate it. But hey, Ryan, you got a lot going on. Can I just have you kind of introduce who you are, what you're working on, and maybe just a little bit of your history?
Yeah, so as Aaron said, my name is Ryan Dozer. I am currently an entrepreneur. I own a company called Thrive15 Media is my LLC. And as he alluded to at the beginning, I specialize in PPC or pay-per-click marketing through Google Ads, social. I do a ton of SEO work for different clients, and I also do my own affiliate marketing projects as well. So, I'm very spread thin. I'm all over the place, but one thing at a time. But those are kind of the areas that I'm dabbled in, along with AI. I've been doing a lot of stuff with AI too lately, and I'm sure we'll dive into AI later in the podcast. But I do have an AI project that is in the works currently and hope to kind of elaborate more on later.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. And hey, we threw out a lot of acronyms for folks. So some of those, so would you mind just kind of starting off? So SEO and SEM, and you said PPC, maybe just talking a little bit through what those are, just to kind of give our audience some context.
A brief overview of each one.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could.
So SEO is search engine optimization. In layman's terms, the best way to say this is how do I get to the top of search engines, primarily Google, Bing, and other, DuckDuckGo, other search engines organically. So without paying to the top. That's the basis of SEO. There's a lot of ins and outs of SEO. There's on-page SEO, off-page SEO, and technical SEO. But that's the basic of SEO. SEM stands for search engine marketing. In contrast to SEO, you are paying your way to the top of search engines. Primarily Google, Bing has their own advertising platform. But you are, it depends on the industry, how much you're going to pay to get towards the top. Obviously, higher ticket, you're going to pay more. That's just pay to play. But yeah, SEM, search engine marketing, paying your way to the top. Pay-per-click, this is actually a combination of both paid social media and SEM. So pay-per-click is the combination of just pay-per-click marketing, whether it's social media, whether it's search engines, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Google, Bing, that all kind of goes under the umbrella of pay-per-click marketing.
I love that you actually differentiated, because when I hear SEM and PPC, most of the time they're kind of used as the same, and I love that incorporated social media in there. So does DuckDuckGo do any of that?
So DuckDuckGo is actually, I believe, a search partner of Google Ads. So this is kind of a nitty-gritty detail, but within Google Ads, there's an option you can do to enable search partners, and I believe DuckDuckGo is one of those search partners.
Okay. I've really been enjoying DuckDuckGo recently. It's pretty good. But awesome. Okay, so I'm glad that we took that moment just to define those, just to make sure everybody was kind of on the same page. When talking specifically about SEO and SEM, or PPC even, how do these strategies complement each other in digital marketing? Yeah,
so you should always have what's called an omni-channel approach. So omni meaning more than one. So a lot of times someone might not want to invest in SEO because SEO is more of a long-term strategy to minimum, I would say 4 to 6 months to see any legitimate traction. If you're in competitive industries, it's going to be even longer than that. Pay-per-click, obviously it's pay to play. So however much money you're willing to invest in a pay-per-click strategy, you're going to see results quicker. The other part about pay-per-click is typically it's more intent driven. So we're going after the bottom of the funnel with pay-per-click marketing because you can bid on certain keywords. So when you're bidding on certain keywords, the idea behind that is to bid on keywords where your potential customers have intent to convert, bottom of funnel. SEO is more geared primarily towards a top of funnel approach. Informational content, so for example, I heard someone talk about the gardening niche. So top of funnel in gardening might be, what are some of the best plants to grow in my garden? That's an informational top of funnel where SEO would come into play. Whereas if you're trying to go bottom of funnel, someone might search for best gardening tools, or like some transactional search. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that spans across both that I think it would be good to touch on is keywords.
Correct.
Because I think one thing that folks don't always understand is keyword. Usually that would be one word, but that's not exactly how keywords work with SEO and SEM. Can you talk a little bit about that and how they're utilized?
Yeah, so keywords, like you said, it can be more. That's what I thought too when I first started, is that keywords are always one word. Well, keywords are just search terms. Mm-hmm. What are people searching for? And there's different tools that you can look up keywords. Google Ads has their own keyword explorer, SEM Rush, Ahrefs. There's all sorts of keyword research tools. And the benefit of using these tools to find keywords is not only does it give you ideas. So if I type in, one keyword, let's say gardening, keyword research tool is going to give me 50 to 100, if not thousands of ideas based off the one word of gardening for longer tail keywords. So yeah, keywords are extremely important. It's important to know the data points of how competitive keywords are, the estimated CPC or cost per click for keywords, and also how often keywords are searched every month, every year. And that's what these tools can provide.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I've found interesting about keywords as we've been working on them is, so there's the way you would title a blog that's professional, looks nice, makes sense, but then there's also a way that somebody will search for something that maybe isn't as grammatically correct, but that's how they search for it. Can you talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, it's always a tough balance of like writing for the algorithm versus writing for humans. And again, just like anything in marketing, it really depends on what the situation is. But what I found is there always has to be a balance of writing for the machine for the keyword just to get the bases down for Google to rank you. But then within the content, you have to humanize it. So whether it's like different images, different statistics, showing emotion, there's like all sorts of things you have to do inside your content to humanize it. But on a very tipping point or a base level, you do have to write for machines at some point.
Mm-hmm. And I was just going to add one of them that we had done recently. The keyword is, one of them was motorcycle loan pre-approval and then pontoon boat financing.
Okay.
And so those by themselves are the keywords that folks are searching for, but that doesn't make a great title. We slapped guide on the end of them. And that ended up actually doing really well on our 2 of the top performing posts that we did. And so that was an interesting scenario where it was like, that's not a title. So somehow we have to work that keyword in there and then expand on it.
Right. And are you getting, is that locally or is that nationally?
It's nationally.
Okay.
We haven't been able to crack some of that local versus national stuff. It does help. I mean, overall, the site traffic is higher, which was our goal.
That's good.
We wanted the blogs to rank up higher so that on the larger pages like mortgage loans, auto loans, those would then get bumped up more locally because we have some of this clout coming from the national traffic. But that was something that I thought was super interesting. And there's some that the titles are presented and it's almost like too far out there. It's hard to pull it in. But
yeah, and a lot of times too, I'm glad you brought up guide in the title. So when you search for something, you'll see typically 8-9 results in a SERP or a search engine results page on Google. And that's how you differentiate your click-through rates and try to get, more clicks to your page, is adding terms like guide or just improving your SEO titles to try to stand out from the other, 8 results on that page that someone could click.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other, whether it's for probably SEO, because I think sometimes folks, they're not quite sure what that means or exactly what you do. Can you give a brief overview of, when you talk about on-page, off-page, what are just a few examples of things you're talking about?
Yeah, so on-page SEO is optimizing on-page on your website. Off-page SEO is essentially backlinks. So what other websites are linking to you? Typically the rule of thumb with off-page SEO and backlinks is it's called DR domain, so domain rating or domain authority. Sites with more domain authority and domain relevance that are linking to you are going to give you more link juice. So that's off-page SEO in like a nutshell. But on page, there's a lot of different facets. So there's your H1 tag, which is your title. There's your SEO title. So H1 tag and SEO title are actually different. A lot of people don't realize that. Your H1 tag is simply like the title of your blog post. Your SEO title is what you can put in the search engine, ideally, for the search engine to scrape. There's meta descriptions, there's internal linking, there's external linking, there's H2 tags, H3 tags, there's images, there's alt text on images, there's featured images. So those are kind of the different nuts and bolts of on-page SEO, and all those factors do matter.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I've been fascinated by with SEO is, in theory, a lot of it is relatively simple, but once you dive in to do it well, I mean, it's almost like you're going in deep.
Yeah.
And it's ever changing too.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it depends on the niche. So at my previous experience, I used to work for a company called Three Ships in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was working with 90, 85 DRDA domains, which are very high, as you would know, high, authority domains. And when you're working with sites like that, you're going up against like Forbes, US News, and like some of these huge players. But compared to like on a local level or on a much smaller niche, it's a lot easier to rank for things. So SEO is just a completely different ball game when you start getting into the competitive niches.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so you're talking about some of this, like the domain rating, the domain score, excuse me. What are some tools that you can use to help keep track of that?
Yeah, so Ahrefs, SEMrush, you can simply, and these are paid tools that have free trials, I should probably say that. But you can scan any site you want using like an Ahrefs Site Explorer, for example. And when you do that, it'll give you a DR, or domain rating score. And most of that is based on the links, the backlink profile, like the quality of the links, the relevance of the links. Do you have broken links? What is your site slow? I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that score, but that's the basis and the way to do it. Another benefit of plugging, your site into these tools like Ahrefs, you can actually scan what are the top pages. Are they running paid ads? Who's linking to them? What are their backlinks? Well, maybe I can reach out to someone who's linking to my competitor because I have a better article. Maybe they'll link to me. That's a common backlink tactic.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah,
you've made those phone calls.
I have, and a lot of it's cold email.
Okay.
I have done that, and people do this for a living. They're called like DPR, Digital PR Associates.
Oh, interesting.
But again, people get like, even my affiliate site, I get flooded with emails all the time from like sites from Red Ventures like CNET or All Connect. Just like trying to get links and this and that. I'm like, I get millions of these. Like, it's just a part of the game.
And are they legit? Is it a person doing it, or is it a bot sending that out?
A lot of them are bots, but a lot of them are legitimate people like going through Ahrefs looking for potential backlink opportunities. Oh yeah, it's a whole career.
Interesting. I never. So they get paid per link then, or what's the?
I would assume they just get paid a set salary, but they have goals. Like try to get 10 to 15 links a month, or I don't know. I'm not in that world, but whatever the goals are.
Okay, interesting. One point I just want to spend a little bit of time on is you talked about the niche is very important and it's very determinate. And we had a conversation before about financial, and I forget the acronym that you told me.
YMYL?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, and we'll just maybe spend some time on the financial just because that's the example we're talking about. But can you talk a little bit about how important that is and maybe even what that is?
Yeah, so YMYL stands for Your Money, Your Life. So to back up a little bit, Google has this ranking factor called EEAT, Experience, Expertise, Authority, Trust. And when you're in a Your Money, Your Life or YMYL niche, which finance is the epitome of that, healthcare is another epitome of that, anything that impacts a consumer's life, Google is going to look at your site harder than any other niche, right? So for finance, for example, when you're going and factoring in EEAT, some important metrics to look at are your author. Who is your author on your website and all your blogs? Is it a financial advisor who is certified and you can link to all these certifications? Those are good EEAT signals. Who are you linking to? What are your external links? Are you linking to MarketWatch, or are you linking to some scammy like crypto gambling site, right? Because Google looks at these things. What sites are you linking to? And also, what is the nature of your content? Are you sticking to financial topics, or are you going too far off and talking about things that aren't necessarily about financial topics? So to kind of wrap that all up, if you are in that YMYL, Your Money, Your Life category, which finance is, you have to pay attention to the little details more than other niches would.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And kind of to wrap up kind of the SEO, SEM portion, what are some good resources that folks can go and look up, or some good people to follow? Ryan Dozer, of course, is one of them. But
of course,
who else?
Ryan Dozer on LinkedIn. That's number one. But no, Brian Dean, he started Backlinko and SEMrush bought him out. So, I mean, he's...
Okay, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So he puts out some really good SEO content. Income School, I've learned a lot from them.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Patel is like, if you're very intro level, Neil Patel is always a place to start. Surfside PPC, I got to give them some love. I've learned a lot of PPC tutorials from them. Ahrefs has a good YouTube channel. Those are kind of the top ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. And actually, now to put a final bit into it, what are some of the biggest things that you've seen change recently in regard to SEO, SEM, PPC?
Yeah, so SEM, we'll start there. It's getting more expensive as more people come into the space. But I think the big elephant in the room is Google's new SGE, Search Generative Experience, where now, have you seen this?
I've not, no.
So if you have to sign up for it. So if you have a Google account and you sign up for it, it's not on incognito browsers. But when you search and you're signed up for that Search Generative Experience, it's going to give you an AI response. So when you search for something, instead of the typical 7, 8, 9 results that you typically see in a search engine, you're going to see this huge top of fold AI generated response. Well, that kind of scares SEOs and paid search people, because it's like, well, what do we do? If there's just going to be one response, how do we run ads? Like, my traffic's going to go down. And I honestly, I listen to a lot of people talk about this. I think we're going to start to see a dwindle of informational content traffic, if you see what I'm saying here. I think it's perfect for informational. So think of like a TripAdvisor. So if someone searches like best things to do in New York City, well, instead of the traditional 10 results and TripAdvisor would be number 1, we're going to see a search generative experience response where it's going to be a huge AI of like 10 bullet points, instead of trying, because Google doesn't want people to go to sites. Unless they're clicking ads, Google doesn't want people to go to websites. And that's the whole point. They're trying to provide the answer right there so someone gets the information and off they go.
And they're probably pulling information from TripAdvisor and other places, Expedia maybe.
It is, but it makes you wonder, like Google's revenue, or Alphabet Inc.'s overall revenue, is about 70% search ads. So it makes you wonder, like, Google's got to monetize this somehow, because the shareholders aren't going to put up with that, right? So the bigger play here, what I'm trying to think is, maybe they're just going to have maybe 1 or 2 ads and they're going to charge more for those placements. Or they're just going to strictly do it for informational, because anything transactional, it's going to be very hard to do a generative AI experience, in my opinion. Because if you're searching for, let's just say, best grills or just some transactional search, you're going to want to get reviews from people. You're not going to want to look for an AI response like, here are the best grills. And like, how can you trust that? I'd want to read a review. I'd want to watch a video. So when it comes to informational content, I think that's where the AI is going to take place.
Interesting. And I think you do make a good point, because Google, when they're pulling all those responses, if they don't know who it's from, there's not a lot of trust that's going to be built there. I was just wondering, and this may or may not work, but I've seen with X and what Elon Musk is doing, paying creators. I don't know if somehow, if they were going to be building AI responses based off websites, if there'd be some sort of partnership, like you could opt into having your content contribute to these answers. I don't know if you could ever track that or not.
That's an interesting question. Google News, I know you can sign up for Google News when they populate the news results. But honestly, I know it's still in beta mode and they have a long way to go. I believe they're literally just pulling information from the top 2 to 3 results and kind of making bullet points in their own little AI form. Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah, I was just looking at the landing page, and then it looks like there actually are results below once you get past.
Yep, but again, who's going to scroll below? Because most people click the first thing that they see. So when they see a huge thing that's above the fold and they're not going to scroll, well, that's kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Interesting. Well, and I do know that, so ChatGPT, of course, so my wife and I have actually used that. We asked it, and it's a little bit behind, of course, you have to be careful, but we're going to be going to Montana in September. It's, hey, we're going to be there for 7 days, plan out our itinerary, and we want to do this, this, and this, try this type of stuff, and it plans everything out. And so you do get some great stuff back, but from the SEO's perspective, it is kind of scary.
A lot of people are in trouble, especially publishers. So people that are making money strictly from like Ezoic and like these media networks like AdSense, Google AdSense, these typical ad networks. I think those people are in the most trouble, in my opinion, because a lot of those people rely on informational content. Think about all the informational queries that like TripAdvisor is the example I always give. All these informational posts, 10 best things to do in XYZ city. Well, if Google's going to relaunch this AI experience, all that traffic's going to go away.
Right. So do you have any, and maybe TripAdvisor's listening, who knows, do you have any advice for those folks that are looking at this or thinking about this, about what they should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is to go omni-channel again. Obviously search is a huge platform. Maybe instead of all the resources you're spending on search, go to YouTube, where you're not going to get AI-generated responses. But YouTube is still the second biggest search engine on the internet. So maybe it's a matter of taking resources somewhere else and trying to dump them in other places. That's the thing I can think of right now.
No, absolutely. Well, and I'd be curious, too, with this, because video is so important for folks to consume and learn content. I'll be curious if there's a video component that comes in. I mean, already, if you Google a question, it sometimes will pull up a YouTube video and then that specific portion of the video. And I'm guessing that's AI driven, of course, and so I'd be curious how that will all fit into this This is fascinating though. I didn't know about this.
Oh yeah. I think that was in their they do a big conference or announcement every year, and this was like their big one.
Interesting. Well, and I mean, so we have Google Homes at our place, and I mean, a lot of this is already baked into that. It's just rather than getting your audio answer, now you're actually on search looking for it. Yeah,
and on that same note, I think this was in the same conference, Google Ads, so going to the SEM conversation, they're actually doing automatically created assets now. So you can flip a switch and Google can take your landing page and now create ads. It can create extensions. Like they're just trying to make everything as controlled by them as possible.
Interesting. And are you a fan of that?
I am not. I actually ran a test. So are you familiar with like responsive search ads or RSAs?
Yep,
so that's Google's Google ad type. They used to have expanded text ads, but they got rid of that where you could control, you know what I'm talking about here? Where you could control the 3 headlines, 2 descriptions. They got rid of that and now it's pure responsive search ads. I actually ran a split test and I documented this on LinkedIn one day. Comparing like you can pin headlines. So like, let's say I have one headline out of 15 I want to show first. Well, you can pin that. Well, it sounds great in theory, but here's the problem with that. Anytime you pin assets, what I've learned is Google will automatically flag your ad as low quality, no matter what.
Seriously?
They will.
No matter what you put in there?
No matter what you put in there, they will. If you pin headlines and pin descriptions, they will flag your ad as low quality. And so once they do that, that's all part of the keyword quality score, right? So keyword quality score, expected click-through rate, landing page experience, and I'm missing one, ad relevance. So ad relevance and expected click-through rate are both based on the ad quality. So if you have poor ad quality, tanks your keyword quality score. Yeah. That tanks your position in the bidding auction. It all ties together. So that was my finding from running the split test, and I'm glad I did it. That wasn't the finding I was expecting. I was expecting like maybe pinned ads would do better than non-pinned ads. I was expecting that sort of finding. But when I found that out, I was like, wow. I was like, guess I'm never using pinned ads ever again.
Yeah, Google wants you to play their game.
I know.
Do you remember the difference in the quality score?
I don't. I think it was like maybe 7 out of 10 to 3 out of 10 or something like that.
So that's huge. Yeah. I didn't know if even 1 point is huge, because
usually it's 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, I believe is how they rate it. 1, 3, 5, 7.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Even one of those levels, that's big, especially if you're in an ultra competitive.
Oh, for sure.
We work with a lawyer. We don't run their SEM, but they're $40 a click, for all of their stuff. So, oh my gosh. Well, interesting. In the last bit of our conversation, which I think we'll actually spend the most time in, and I'm super excited for, and we've been alluding to it several times. Actually, definitely on the SEO side, and then now even a little bit on the SEM with what you just shared. But AI, and I'm curious. I'm just gonna say dived in deep on some of this. Can you talk a little bit about what you've been experiencing with AI and what you've tried?
Yeah. So I'll just start here. When ChatGPT first came out, obviously I actually wasn't as impressed as most people I think were because it was so headline news. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been using Jasper AI. Isn't this the same exact thing? And we actually talked about this, I think, at one point. So this idea of language models and copy-based AI isn't new. And I think that's the first thing that we need to mention is that Spin Rewriter has been around since 2014 or something. Jasper has been around since 2018 or 2019, somewhere around there. So this idea that AI content generation, and oh my God, ChatGPT just came out. This is going to change everything. It's already been here. ChatGPT just made it more accessible and easier. And some of the results are better than what Jasper was giving. So I think that's the first point to make is that it's always been here. It's just getting better now and getting more prevalent in our everyday lives. So I did speak about this to an organization called Fuse DSM. They're a local chamber of commerce group in Des Moines. The CEO reached out to me one day. I posted something on LinkedIn and she's like, hey, Ryan, I've never met her. She's like, hey, Ryan, we're having a lunch and learn about AI. Can you speak on this? And I'm like, okay, I feel like I don't know much, but yeah, I'm up for the challenge, right? So long story short, I speak about it. I talk about ChatGPT, Bard, where I think it's going, and just all the ins and outs of AI. And what I ended up finding out was, and I talk to my web developer almost every day, and he makes me feel dumber than rock sometimes when I talk about AI, because he's into auto GBT and he's into the next trend, next tool, this and that.
Yeah, wow.
I'm like, bro, pump the brakes, man. I don't know what's going on. But then I talked to a group of 40 to 50 40 to 50 that are traditional business owners, and they think I'm Albert Einstein.
Right.
I'm telling them all these Chrome extensions, either AI PRM, that's a good one I would look into. It's created prompts on ChatGPT. So anyways, I talk about that. I talk about simple use cases for ChatGPT, simple use cases for Bard. And these people think I'm the next coming of God. You know what I mean? And it's like, I try to explain to them, I'm like, hey, this is such bare bones information. But what that taught me after that presentation is that, wow, we are still so early, especially with the older generation. They still can't get a grasp on this stuff. So there's just so much to dive into with AI, but I'll explain my tool stack here. So my tool stack is I use ChatGPT Plus, so that gives me access to GPT-4 and 3.5 language models. I use Google Bard actually more than I thought I would, mainly for frequently asked questions on blog posts because it's pulling straight from Google. I use SEO writing.ai for long form content. I've learned that ChatGPT actually sucks for short, long form content. It's good for short form, bad for long form. A lot of reasons for that. But SEO writing.ai I've been very impressed with. WriteSonic I've been very impressed with. I'm always exploring new tools. Midjourney is a great tool for graphic design and AI art generation for $10 a month. So I'm always like venturing in new tools. Those are some right now. Firefly's AI is an AI note taker I use in meetings. So when I'm in my Google Meets or Zooms, I have Firefly's AI in the background taking notes, transcribing the whole conversation, creating action items for when the meeting's over.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so is that you just running on your computer with the microphone?
Yeah,
and
so
stuff?
it's like a meeting. So like when I hop in a Google Meet, Firefly's AI will be a meeting guest. So it's just sitting there as a meeting guest in the actual meeting, and it's transcribing the whole conversation, creating action items. And this stuff's getting better every day. Like I'm probably behind right now as I talk about it. But yeah, man, I'm always looking for AI tools that can, one, save me time and automate my processes, but two, also help me financially too. Because instead of paying someone $50 to $100 an article, and I talk about this on Isaac's podcast, you can pay an AI tool $20 a month, have similar output, similar results, and more production. And sometimes the output's actually better depending on the niche. So yeah, man, I'm always dabbling new AI stuff, trying to see what I can do to improve my business.
And so before we go too far into maybe some of those tools specifically, how are you keeping up? I think that's where people get overwhelmed is they know it's important. They know there's some really helpful things, but how in the heck do you get a grasp on what is actually helpful?
AI is extremely overwhelming. And whenever someone asks me that question, I always refer to it as it reminds me of crypto. When crypto first came around, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and now there's millions of these other coins. In AI, I see a similar trend. It's ChatGPT, and then Bard is now the Ethereum, and then there's all these other new AI tools.
I love that comparison.
Yeah, but how does someone stay informed? Well, there's a ton of YouTube tutorials out there. I would just start, what are the basics of ChatGPT? That's the first place I would start. How do I prompt it? Then I would move on to Bard. What are the basics of Google Bard? Because they're both language models. But once you understand those two, then in my opinion, can you start to look into, okay, what are the best AI tools for fill in the blank? SEO, copywriting, photo generation, logo generation, video production, AI. There's so many AI tools that can do so many things now. So to wrap it all around, start with the basics. Don't try to get into the shiny object syndrome of what are the best tools for this, best tools for that. Start with the basics of ChatGPT, start with the basics of Bard, and then go to YouTube, go to Google, and look for tutorials from there.
You know, one thing, maybe this is helpful, but one thing I know that my boss always says, and he got it from somewhere else, and I can't remember the name at the moment, but he talks about if there's something that you do more than twice, try to find a way to automate it. You know, the note-taking one, that's a no-brainer. And are the notes helpful? You know, afterwards, is it like, that's what I needed?
It's always good, too. It's like, oh, what did I say in the meeting? Or what did he say about that one thing? And it's always good to go back and like, oh, that's what it was. That's the benefit of having that, in my opinion. But now there's a tool called Scribe. Have you heard of Scribe?
I believe.
So if you're recording a video or you're trying to record any tutorial, there's an AI tool called Scribe where it will track your mouse clicks and it will create screenshots and like a screenshot guide based on what you're doing on your screen. So if you can use that for training purposes for your team.
Well, and I know we're actually in the process of documenting all of those processes, so that would be uber helpful. We just there's a client we work with that we run their Zoom meetings. They have big presentations that they do to lots of folks. And so we just went through and documented their exact process of how they liked things, where they want the recordings afterwards. And so the fact that you can just do that and it'll capture it, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So I've been learning, that's one I'm learning actually today. So.
Oh, interesting. So have you used that one before? Or
I haven't. My developer uses it. I've seen him use it. But I'm actually going to dive in soon on Scribe as I'm going to create tutorials this week for certain things. So.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit and incorporate this AI into SEO. So for somebody that knows, SEO is important. They need to build up their website. Even with Google's AI thing going on, it's still important. What would be some of their first steps to understanding, first of all, what first steps they need to take to building content, but then how can AI come alongside them and help expand that?
Yeah, so the first step is to always develop a strategy. What is the point of content if you have no strategy? That's what I run into with people all the time is like, I need all these blogs. I need to rank for all these keywords. Like, let's pump the brakes here. What is your strategy? Mm-hmm. What are you trying to rank for? What type of customers do you want? Are you trying to get emails? Are you trying to get e-commerce sales? So let's back up. Let's figure out the strategy. And then once you have the strategy, next step is keyword research, right? So once you have your strategy, we need to formulate a bunch of keywords, whether it's 20, 30, 50 keywords to start, okay? Now that once you have your keywords, now for each keyword, we need to figure out a blog post if we're going through an SEO strategy. So now let's figure out a blog post for each keyword. Well, the best way to kind of automate this once you have those in place, you can use a tool like SEOwriting.ai, right? So now SEOwriting.ai or WriteSonic, you can plug in a keyword and it'll basically crank out a 1,000 to 3,000 word article. And obviously you can give it more instructions. The more you prompt these tools, the better your outputs are going to be. So you can't just say, write me an article on this and expect to have, like the best book ever written. You know what I mean? So you have to prompt these tools a little bit. But then, so once you have your strategy, your keywords, you pump your keywords into AI tools or outsource, however you want to do that content production. You get your content and then you want to distribute that content. So once you have your content, how are we distributing that content? Do we have an email newsletter? Do we have social media platforms where we can share our content? Can we transcribe our written content into video content on YouTube or whatever other platforms you're getting into? Can we transcribe that into a podcast format? So you just have to figure out that once you have your written posts, how can you dive into that and make it more types of content? I think that's where a lot of people struggle is they think that I have to get one type of content for each thing. Well, one piece of content can be distributed in 5 different ways, as you probably know.
Mm-hmm. And I think that what you just said, that last minute and a half, is like a golden nugget of if you want to start something and you don't know where to start with marketing, having your central piece of content and then figuring out how to use it on multiple platforms. Because people, they'll be like, oh, I use it on Facebook, I can't use it on TikTok, or oh, I wrote this blog, but I don't think it'll do well on YouTube. And it's not that it won't do well. It's you just got to think about the audience, think about the platform, and tailor it to that.
Like this podcast, for example, you could clip this into 20 different clips, post each clip on social media. You could post the podcast to YouTube. You could probably post YouTube shorts going after different keywords based on the different topics that we talked about. So you could post 10 YouTube shorts, one on SEO, one on SEM, one on AI. There's just so many different ways and that's why the Gary V's of the world are so well known, is they talk about this all the time. Distributing content, one long form content can be 50 short form content.
Oh, huge, easy. And especially anymore with, so TikTok came along and it's not quite like this as much anymore, but Reels on Facebook and Instagram and then also YouTube Shorts for a while where they were just kind of mirroring TikTok in terms of the content. Now it's deviated just a touch, but even just posting the same things, it's amazing. I know Facebook Reels right now are kind of on a hot streak in terms of engagement and views. But
I'm not in that world of video too much. But one thing based on what you just said, I will say is that the platforms do take notice of how often you use them. Mm-hmm. So for example, the more videos you upload on YouTube, the more shorts you upload on YouTube, the more reach you're probably going to get, because YouTube or Google at a high level knows this person's playing our game. They're posting all this content so we can make more ad dollars off that person. Well, let's reward them a little bit and give them more impressions or make them rank higher for a certain keyword. Trust me, the more you're in a platform, the more that platform will reward you.
Mm-hmm. One thing I've been curious on to that point is usage. Do you think they tie in if you're creating content but also spending an hour on their platform a day, if somehow there's a part of the algorithm that incorporates that
one thing,
too?
And they'll never make this public, but on the sense of Google, one thing I think that they do know is that if you are spending ad dollars, so if you're a Google account that's tied to their ad profile and you're spending ad dollars, somewhere, somehow, some way, they know that, oh God, this guy's paying ad dollars. Maybe we'll reward him a little bit on YouTube, or maybe we'll reward him a little bit in the rankings on Google for this keyword. Mm-hmm. They will never publicly say that, but that's just how businesses work.
Right. Well, and I've always wondered too, it seems the first videos you do always do amazing to start. You're like, wow, this will be great. And that's when it goes back down to some sort of nominal level, and then you get the random spikes. Yeah. I have to think that there's if they see you spending money over here on SEM, you start doing YouTube videos, whoa, that was a great start, and then it's oh, your views are down. Like maybe we should put some money in there to bump them up.
It's all connected. I'm actually going to speak on local SEO to Fuse DSM here in about a month. And that's one point I'm going to touch on is that even like these little updates in Google My Business, how you can make posts and updates in your Google My Business account, might not seem like a big deal, might not move the needle, but every update that you post, that's a signal to Google. They're spending time on our platform. Maybe we'll give them a little bump in the map pack next week or something, right? The more you're active, the more they will reward you.
Yeah, fascinating. So fascinating. And then on the, so moving a little bit from the SEO to the SEM side, how have you seen AI come into SEM?
Yeah, so first off with SEM, I don't think I even talked about my background quick in SEM. I'm going to explain kind of how I got started in that while we're on that topic. My first job out of UNI was actually at Meredith Corporation. So I was in the weeds of SEM or search engine marketing, managing $500,000 ad budgets with another guy. So we were running ads for People Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, hours digging through search term reports, conversion tracking, bidding, the whole shebang with paid search. So I just wanted to give my quick background on paid search to give like some expertise of, I kind of know what I'm talking about to some extent.
Those budgets I'd say are slightly above average. Yeah.
So that was a really good experience. But to your point about AI, the best thing that I have found AI in paid search is through ad copy and extensions. So AI, in my opinion, great for ideation, ChatGPT and Bard, great for short form content. Long form, they struggle right now. But when you're writing 30 character headlines and 90 character descriptions and you explain, hey, I am this business located in this area and I am trying to target these keywords in my ad copy. Give me 20 headlines and give me 10 descriptions. You would be surprised at what you'd find.
Oh, interesting. No, and that makes sense. And is that kind of across the board for Google, Bing, social media?
Oh, yeah. So, social media copy is good too. But Bing actually got really smart, and you can import directly from Google into Bing. They've been doing this for a while now.
Interesting.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. So Bing Ads is notorious for this, where anything you do in Google, you can just automatically export it into Bing without making any updates.
Interesting. Because they're not tied together at all. That's just something that they kind of have allowed to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's Microsoft advertising now instead of Bing Ads. They rebranded. Genius business model. Copy what Google's doing and then just create our own thing and copy exactly what they do and try to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah, make it easy for customers. Interesting.
But that's how I would use AI to start in SEM is just ad copy, extensions. Google's trying to incorporate machine learning and AI more into their bidding, but that's kind of in the weeds, what you can't really control.
Interesting. Okay. And so I want to a little bit deviate from our notes that we had here. I'd love to just spend a little bit of time on ethics of AI and what some of your thoughts are there. For example, you talked about blog writing, you talked about social media copy, running ads. What are your thoughts on like ethics of, do you need to note that this is AI? Do you not? Because ultimately the goal is you want to be helpful. I'd just be curious to get some of your thoughts on that.
Depends on the niche, in my opinion. So if you're, like you just mentioned, your financial client, I would still just dabble in AI for financial topics. Always, anytime you're dealing with a your money, your life niche like finance, always reread the AI produced content. You're going to be surprised that, there's a lot of good stuff, but maybe in a couple sentences somewhere in the middle, it's way off. You know what I mean? You also have to go in and add links and, kind of what I talked about before, but depends on the niche. So if you're in, I don't know, like a gardening niche or a live TV niche or something that's not your money, your life, honestly, bro, like if you're a brand new site and you're just trying to get traffic, I would just let it rip. Because the more time you're going to spend trying to tweak the ins and outs of that might not sound right or that might not, I would just let it rip if you're not in a heavy your money, your life niche. If you're in finance, if you're in health, use AI with caution. Still use AI, but use it with extreme caution and make sure you're rereading the outputs.
Okay. And just to our financial client out there, we haven't used AI, and all of the posts are approved by the heads of the department. So just wanted to throw that.
As long as they're getting approved, and there are some topics within financial stuff you probably could that are very top of funnel that you could dabble in AI more with. But yes, always use AI with caution when you're in the your money, your life niche.
Okay, and that's a really good answer, and actually one thing I was kind of curious about is, will it get to a point, okay, so the Harry Potter franchise, one of the best-selling book franchises of all time, would it get to a point where, okay, so we have, each of the books, well now, somebody could take it and make it like maybe what it should have been, or make it the most engaging story, or bring in their own aspects to it, so rather than you're reading a Harry Potter book, it's Harry Potter, but it's your own personal flair, and that's what interests you. Do you think that's ever gonna, like, especially with movies and art and things?
I mean, we're already seeing that to some extent with deep fake technology with videos. That is a very gray area because at least I'm not a lawyer, and just a disclaimer, I don't really understand the laws of copyright fully. But if someone like tweaks Harry Potter or they tweak a video, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to have a legal case to be like, well, he's clearly copywriting this or clearly copywriting that. I think the legal system has a lot of work to do with deep fakes and AI generated content.
Well, and that's a really interesting point, so just sticking with Harry Potter, if you take Harry Potter or even just a video like the likeness and turn it into something else, does Harry Potter still own that? Does OpenAI own that because they're the ones that built the technology that allowed it to happen? Do you own it because you're the one that manipulated it and gave it the inputs?
I don't think there's an answer to that. I think lawmakers are still trying to figure all that out behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. I think it will be interesting. I think a lot, and it's hard, but a lot of it probably has to do with intent, on what you're doing. Because if you, take a video of the president and make it saying something that incites something else,
Well, a lot of it is intent too. Are you making money off of it?
Right.
If you're not making money off of it, I mean, who really cares? But if you're making money off of it, I think that's where people start to get more attention. I have a client, I'm glad you brought up the video thing about the president. I have a client that's in the digital forensic space, and they do deep fake analysis. He was on the news. But one in particular, there was a story, this was several months ago, about someone created a deep fake image of the Pentagon exploding. Okay,
I remember this.
Yeah, sounds funny, whatever, laugh all you want. Well, it tanked the stock market for 2 hours.
Yep.
And it was like 5 to 10% tank. You can look it up. So it may not seem like a big deal, but let's say someone's on the brink of retirement or someone's living on their investments and they see the market went down 10% in the span of 2 hours. Holy hell. Like, what are we doing? Right. So that's the dangers of the deep fake technology, is that it can really spew things very quickly.
Mm-hmm. I got stopped out of some stocks that day. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. Well, and there's been other instances of that just with some different things. That's super fascinating.
I got another quick story about that too. So my forensics client, they do deepfake forensics in Houston, Texas. He was on the local news. There was a 5th grade student who got mad at his teacher one day and took her face, created an OnlyFans account using her face, using deepfake videos, deepfake images, started making money off of it from donations and subscriptions. Well, then I think the teacher lost her job because they thought it was her. The school thought it was her. Then law enforcement got involved. My client, the digital forensics expert, got involved. It was a whole thing. It was on the New York Post. I mean, it was all over the news. But the point I'm trying to make is these kids are getting smart, and deepfake is a very serious threat.
Yeah, and it's so accessible.
It is.
You had Photoshop back in the day where you could do some of this stuff, but it takes time, and that's usually what would push people away from doing it. But it's accessible, it's quick,
and it looks real to
and
the
it looks
average
real.
person. Yeah.
Even some of those videos, obviously there's some that are just goofy, but you see some that's like,
and it really scares me, honestly, with political season. I'm not affiliated with one side or the other, but if someone takes a video of a political candidate and spins it and says things that are offensive or this and that, oh my God, did you see what he said? And it goes viral on social media. I mean, who knows where that could go?
Well, and all it just like what you said about the Pentagon, it just takes an hour. You know what I mean? Because even your buddy that's the forensics, they can't be on top of all that stuff all the time.
No.
There's a gap. There's a delay before somebody can address it.
Oh, yeah.
I just so think with the spread of information, how fast it is, you just have to be careful.
You do.
If you look at something and you're like, maybe we double check
always,
somewhere.
I mean, obviously always think for yourself, but always double check things too in your mind. Don't just like look at something or read something. I don't believe anything I read or see anymore unless
Especially headlines.
Headlines too.
Yeah.
The more I dive. So always the point I'm trying to make is always do your due diligence, double check something, rewatch something, reread something. Don't just look at something and think it's the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I appreciate, I know that was a little bit off script, but I did want to get into it because I think it is a question that some folks have. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of things that can go really, really well with AI, but there are some people that are using it for some less than good.
As with any technology.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So do you know if there's any legislation coming on?
I couldn't tell you. I'm sure there has to be.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff this morning, thinking through our audience, business leaders, they may or may not have dabbled in AI. They may or may not have dabbled in digital marketing personally. They might have had help. What are just some final thoughts, some final notes or final topics that you'd share with them?
Yeah, just some final tips on the kind of the AI and intro level. Don't be scared. A lot of people, AI is going to take my job. AI is going to disrupt my business. AI is not going anywhere. Number one is obviously, it's only going to become more prevalent in our lives. So I talked about this. There's the famous, when I spoke for the Fuse DSM organization, there's the famous clip from Moneyball where the guy pulls up, he's talking to the old scout and the GM Billy Bean. The old scout's traditional. He says, we can't do things this way. You know, we're going to lose all these games. Billy Bean pulls his hands up and he says, adapt or die, and then just walks away. And that's how I see where AI is going. Adapt or die, right? It's like, it's going to be here. It's going to be more prevalent. So my tip on that basis point is learn the basics. Don't get all into the weeds. I mean, eventually, if you want to get into the weeds, that's cool, but just understand the basics of ChatGPT, understand the basics of Bard, understand the basics of language models and GPT-4, and just, I don't know, understand the basics of inputs, because the thing is, bro, AI tools will always need inputs to produce outputs. They cannot just, there's auto GPT, and eventually we'll get there down the weeds. But learn the basics of AI, because the tools will always need inputs from human beings to produce the outputs.
So what I'm hearing is, one, it's important. You need to learn it. But two, there's a little bit of grace because it's early still. You talked about that speaking that you had earlier. It's still early. You still have time. And just dive in.
Yeah,
So.
and also on that third note, I would say is don't be reactive. I mean, you can say this to anything in business or anything in marketing, but especially in AI, you know it's coming. It's already here. This isn't a surprise. Don't be so reactive where, you know, let's say AI, you know, somehow replaces your job in whatever you're doing or replaces something in your business. Don't sit there and wait for that to happen and then wonder why it happened and then say, oh my God, someone come help me. AI just disrupted me. So instead of doing that, let's be proactive. Let's learn the basics of AI. So that way, when it comes, you can say, oh yeah, you know, I understand the basics of this. Now, how do we adapt?
You know, and what I've heard too is AI isn't going to take your job. Somebody using AI to supplement their performance is going to take your job.
Absolutely.
Is kind of what I've heard.
I think there's going to be whole programs, whether it's traditional education or not, where it's going to be just AI prompt engineering, in my opinion, where it's going to be people learn how to create prompts for different tools, because that's where everything's going. Again, it's the inputs. What inputs can you put into AI to produce the best outputs? And I think that's going to be a whole career.
So Zach and I have talked about that a little bit, almost like code for a website or an app or something. It's going to be people that know how to manipulate
Prompt
it, use
engineering.
it to get what you want. That is fascinating. Do you know if there's any courses like I've seen
I'm
people
sure
sell, you know, $5, here's how to use
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
I'm sure there are courses, but I think that there will be like a boot camp, like a coding boot camp type thing where it's going to be just prompt engineering and AI.
That's fascinating. That's so fascinating. Any estimates on the timeline for some of that stuff?
I mean, probably sooner than you think.
Yeah. Well, and I'd be curious too. So COVID pushed forward a ton of different things in technology. I don't know if AI was pushed forward during that time or not, but it seems like it was kind of always in the back, you know, of stuff going on, and now it's just here.
Yeah, I just think with more people behind screens, it's going to push out more technological. The more time people spend behind screens, the more it's going to push out technological advancements.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, Ryan, unless you have anything else, I think we covered all my topics for today and even some more, which I super appreciate you doing.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raisin Brand podcast. Definitely check out, if you're listening to this on audio, we have a YouTube channel where you can kind of see the visuals, get some good clips, and then there's always a follow-up blog on the website. But thank you, Ryan. I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another Raisin Brand podcast. Make sure to check out our website at raisinbrand.co and sign up for our email list to make sure you never miss another podcast.